It is finally that time we've all been waiting for. It's time we finally weld on the quarter panel. You see, this here is my rejected repaired 2018 E63 AMG-S. Taking delivery of my new E63S. And I took a massive risk buying this thing completely sight unseen and paying $28,000, not knowing what is going on behind this quarter panel. In the previous episode, we took the quarter panel off and we identified two structural components that were damaged. 3, 2, 1. What is going on? These are the pieces. They're in 3 pieces. They should be only 2. In the previous episode, I said if that video got 8,000 likes, I will fix this quarter panel and weld everything in back at home. Although that video didn't get 8,000 likes, I think we're close to 7,000. I still want to challenge myself and see if I'm able to repair all this at home. What do you guys think? Possible? What's up, guys? I hope you guys are enjoying this content, and if you are, please smash that like button. We have a massive task ahead of us, and the task requires a lot of work, and the question is, are we able to do everything at home? I don't know. You see, my structural parts from Mercedes-Benz have officially arrived, and there they are, as you can tell. I mean, these structural components are cool and all, but they're obviously not gonna weld themselves on. I mean, maybe, somehow. No, but actually what we got to do is go get a welder and all the tools we need in order to get this job done at home. And like I said earlier, I actually left all the tools and the shop for my dad back in Washington. So that means we have to restock on all the tools and supplies. But first thing we got to do is get a welder. So let's go. Pawn shop number 2 is the same pawn shop. The guy at the other pawn shop called this pawn shop and said, hey, do you have a welder? And apparently they have a Lincoln 140 HD, which is the exact same one I used in Washington. I'm very familiar with it. They're about $700 brand new, and they have a brand new one here for 400 bucks. So let's go grab it. As advertised, everything brand new, has all the accessories. I looked through everything, and 400 bucks. 430 after fees and tax. Solid deal. The guy in the pawn shop even gave me this little complimentary water. We need to go get some argon and then buy a whole bunch of supplies to get this entire thing welded up. Well, I learned something today. I never knew that you can't buy a welding cylinder at Airgas, and a lot of other places won't sell you welding cylinders either. They'll only refill your welding cylinder. So basically the guy at the front desk just said, hey, go on Facebook Marketplace, go anywhere and just buy yourself a used one, and we can fill it up for you. So I went to Facebook Marketplace, I found one filled up. Basically a different guy selling a tank that's already filled up with 75% argon and 25% CO2. So we just pulled up. Let's go ahead and get a tank. Okay.
Red 2000 PSI.
Yo, boy went shopping. Jeez. Shout out to Harbor Freight for having all the cheap and good stuff. Once I came home, I set up the welding cart, but I needed a toolbox. Yep, I just did that. Big old toolbox inside of a Tesla. So I bought this Harbor Freight toolbox. It was only $220 and it's gonna keep my garage much cleaner. And if you're wondering why do I have a black Tesla, well, that's because it's a loaner right now. Yo, check out this setup right here. It's literally the same one I had in Washington, and like I said earlier, I'm very familiar with this setup. That's why I bought it. I feel like this is one of the budget-friendly welders that will kind of get you everything you need done, at least for welding a car and stuff like that, and basic metal. These blankets here were about 30 bucks each. Anyways, this entire setup here cost me around $850 to $900, but that right there should help us out with getting these pieces welded onto this car. Not only that, I also got this toolbox here to help my garage space be a little bit more organized because I had all my tools on the floor here, and this here is gonna save me just a ton of space all around. So yay for that, yay for a clean garage. And now let's move this car, take off the quarter panel, and see what the heck are we gonna start doing. Well, in the last episode, we've concluded, kind of concluded, I won't say concluded just yet, but we've concluded the reason that this vehicle here is a rejected repair because this piece here, the one that I'm gonna be changing, goes super far up onto the roof, and in order for them to replace it properly by the books, they need to take off the roof panel, hence making it too expensive of a repair and rejecting the vehicle onto the auction. But I've come to tell you that that is not the case, because this new piece that we are going to be welding on only goes about 4 inches past that hole. You can see that hole right there. It lines up and it's right over there. So it basically ends just kind of at the end of that dent, which makes me kind of think, is there more damage we're hiding? Or was this really the end of the hunt for why they rejected this vehicle? But regardless, I don't really know where else to look. The engine runs, the front frame is not bent, everything runs good. The airbags are good, the undercarriage is good. This is the last part, so we're just gonna go ahead and start panel beating, getting this thing lined up and tack welded in.
Obviously, we don't want to damage any of the interior, so we got to clean everything up and then make our precision cut to remove the remaining piece of this inner structural piece.
Well, I did my measurement and it's just right under 3 inches right over here. Translated that right there, put this up to get the correct angle of the cut, and it's like that. So let's go ahead and mask off the rest of the vehicle and chop it off.
You see, these are special welding blankets, and I use them for any time I'm grinding as well, because the sparks can cause damage to paint and to interior. Safety first, get our grinder, and when you're cutting, make sure you cut on the tape line, because a lot of times the thickness of the actual disc will give you a bigger gap than needed. Once that's cut, you just chisel it right off, and in areas you can't reach with the cutoff disc, you just use the chisel as a knife and just hammer it good enough and it'll pop right off.
I knew it was coming. The first issue we officially run into. So this piece that we need to replace is under another piece, and that piece goes who knows how far. But the goal here is to actually go ahead and drill it and slide this piece out and then slide a new piece in there. And maybe we could just get away with that. So let's go ahead and try. And it's quite warm here, so don't mind me sweating. Let's get it.
And trust me when I say this, Florida is extremely hot in the summer. I have never in my life sweated this much, but I went ahead and tried to pop this piece off, and guess what?
I don't know what people are saying, wood chisel or not, this bad boy works. I mean, it's getting everything I need off. Folks, we've done it. Now, we need to go ahead and slide this in here and see how far out is our quarter panel. Well, I've got this piece temporarily put on with just some clamps, and you guys can tell right under there, it's in the right spot. You can even see right there, it's not painted, and boom, now it's in the right spot. It sits pretty flush up here. So this is kind of where it's supposed to sit, but we have a big issue, and the issue is, you guys see that gap? I mean, I understand that there's damage there, but how do we get this pulled out to make sure all this fits nice and neat? You see there's a gap there, there's a gap right there, and all along this is a big gap. So let's pull this off and start working.
Now this was the biggest concern for me of this entire rebuild, because I don't have too many tools, I don't have a frame machine or anything like that. So I started just kind of by panel beating it and just feeling how thick the metal is. Does it even want to move or anything like that? Ended up lifting the car, and I was so happy to see that I had great access. So I got my sledgehammer and just started panel beating it from the inside, and everything came out, and I was super happy that I was able to fix this with just super simple 2 hammers.
Would you look at that? We got this area all repaired. It looks phenomenal. I may play with this as just a little bit more, making it smooth, but for the most part, the angle of this and this is absolutely perfect. The area that I'm concerned about is this right over here. So wish me luck. You see, what sucks is I don't really know how this is supposed to look like, because it's the first time I've ever swapped a quarter panel on an E63, but the goal is to just match it up to this and make it look as pretty as it can. We do have enough access back here to kind of get a hammer and just hammer it back out. That's kind of the plan of action. Let's get it done.
Nervously laughing, I was actually really worried about being able to fix this area of the car at home without any specialty tools. I started hammering it and it was moving, so I knew the metal wasn't too rough. To get more access, I needed to remove the seat belt.
So look at this. I took the belt off, and there's like these 2 pins right here that are literally broken. and the seatbelt sat a little bit lopsided in here because of the impact hit here and it moved the seatbelt. Luckily, I don't see anything broken, so that's good besides that little plastic little thing. But from what I'm seeing right here, all it seems like to me is that this little, I don't know what you want to call it, this bubble here just needs to come out more just as a whole, because otherwise it looks like I got everything else lined up. So now that we got the belt off, let's give it some more wax.
It seems like we're on the right track. All we had to do was get this bubble out. That way we can finally mount the top piece that goes over it. Now watch me hammer it and watch this bubble just come out. Ain't that satisfying? From the outside we had to shape it up, make it look pretty, and then test fit the piece on top. See if it fits, how it fits, is it flush, is it how we like it? Just play with it, right? You don't really, there's no specific way to get this repaired besides playing with it and making everything fit as perfect as possible.
I don't know about you guys, but I am happy. This is turning out a lot better and a lot easier than I initially thought when thinking about repairing this section. Now let me show you guys. Yo, look at this. This lines up perfect. It's on a piece of tape because it's just gonna fall off, but it's on there perfect. This is lined up here. Here it's lined up. I'm gonna take this off for the time being, show you guys. It's lined up here. Look at that. Look at that. Here, it just needs to be pushed in. Boom, just pushes in. Right there. And look at that, nice and flush. Now look at this. Push this in. Look at that. From there, all the way up. Nice and flush. No freaking way. This thing just mounted on there so perfect. Basically, that entire section in there was just pushed out. I played with this edge over here and everything lined up pretty perfect. This is only half of the work, if not less. What I gotta do is take this back off, fix some of that stuff in there a little bit more, and then I'm thinking right now, tack weld maybe a couple of dots, just a couple, maybe 3 or 4 of them, and then start measuring up this quarter panel skin right here, because it's really important for us to get the door to close nice and properly right here, having no rain, no water, nothing like that get in, and just kind of make sure the quarter panel fits with all the gaps looking perfect.
And although the top piece fit great, I was very happy with it. My OCD kicked in and I wanted to repair the panel under it, just making it more aesthetically pleasing. Once that was done, I went ahead and prepped all the weld spots for this top piece. And then once that was done, we went ahead and measured up the top piece and marked everything with a Sharpie where all the holes needed to be pre-drilled in order for us to weld this piece on perfectly. But prior to welding that piece on, we needed to repair this hole right here, and I got it all prepped out, cleaned up, make it look nice, grinded it down to make sure it fits nice and smooth inside of its pocket.
This is gonna be my first time using my brand new welder. Let's see if it does good. I already set all this up right here. Look at that, nice and flat, looking perfect. This needs to be welded prior to welding on anything, so that's the first thing we gotta do. Let's get it done. Brand new, brand new. Close your eyes. Woo-wee. We're taking a little break. My wife just brought me some bomb strawberry banana smoothie, and we got our summer showers that are finally cooling off this crazy, crazy heat. Oh my goodness, feels so good. You guys don't even know. I've literally sweated buckets today. Probably the most I've ever sweated in my entire life. We got this piece tack welded in, and I just want to show off this fitment. All around, it just fits nice and flush. It's pretty, you know, it's pretty perfect. I can't really say anything. Even like you see that little shadow right around that little circle, it arcs right in the correct spot. So it's in the spot like 100%. Right now what we got to do is get this quarter panel, chop it up. You see this cut here, this is exactly where I'm going to weld it. This is a nice cut. I'm happy with it. Now here, I gotta cut it a little bit further because I don't want to weld this big diagonal spot. I'd rather weld somewhere from here to here, which is a lot less welding than this. So it'll probably be easier to bondo this as well. Let's go ahead and get that quarter panel cut up, and then we can test fit it onto this vehicle here and see if this here is good and this under here is good.
The first cut I make on the top of the quarter panel is about 2 inches past the point where I actually need to cut it, because only then I can make a perfect and precise cut.
A little trick I use to get perfect cuts is you take this cut off the new quarter panel and you line it up with like a hole. You see that hole right there? We just line it up literally on the money, a little bit back like that. And now you can see that the tape line I put on is just about perfect. We need a gap just about that big to get nice weld in there. So let's go ahead and cut it off here. Our cut down here looks pretty good. Happy with that. Nice and even lines up everywhere. This one here, I'm using a little bit different of a method. So I went ahead and put a Sharpie line, as you can see. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure from that Sharpie line down all the way to where the quarter panel is cut, and then transfer over that measurement onto this black new quarter panel, cut it, and that should line up perfect.
You can see me applying tape here. I use tape as a measurement here, and I just made sure that all the edges, everything lined up, and it's pretty accurate. And if done properly, you should get a phenomenal result. I cut that piece off, and sometimes you might want to use that extra piece as a filler piece, so don't throw it away just yet. Now everything lines up. I'm super happy with it. Maybe some light trimming because I just make my gap super flush and super tight. That way I don't have to weld in big holes.
I don't know if I miss doing this or I'm just a perfectionist or something, but take a look at this cut. Look at that. Ooh, all the way from there. It's nice and perfect. Inside there, it gets a little bit wide right there because I chiseled it there. But anyways, it's looking pretty darn good. I mean, this cut down here is, like I showed, pretty spot on as well. That's enough room to get everything welded in. Gap back here is looking pretty. Look at that. Ooh-wee. Man, am I excited. Let's go ahead and swap out this front door and see this gap right over here. So this may need a couple more hammer hits right here to make it look perfect, but besides that, everything else is pretty good. All it needs to do is just obviously weld these pieces together, and once we even weld these and it's just a little bit back, we can just, this stuff moves pretty easy. You got a lot of wiggle room to make that perfect. So ooh, I'm excited, guys. This is fun. I haven't done this in a fat minute. I am not looking forward to this. Should come off just like that. But now I got to transfer over the hinges and put the new door on. Now the hard part is putting on this door with the two hinges being loose because they kind of got to both slide into these little things. This one here is a triangle, so you have to only put it in a specific way. Luckily, it only took me a couple of tries to get the door on. It's much harder than it looks because of the triangle. You got to put it into a specific slot. But once that was on, I was fighting an issue. Do you see like this awkward tension right here? Look at that. Should not be like that. I'm thinking it's this bottom thing that is a triangle and I put it into the wrong kind of slot. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can fix that. Well, I tried fixing it for the next 15 minutes and I had no luck. Before I can line anything up, I'm fighting this awkward tension here. You see that? It's just not letting it close. And I thought it was this bottom piece here, but it's not. It looks like it's this top one actually, because I removed this bottom one and it still has that awkward tension. And I think it's this hinge that's wrong angle. I'm not really sure just yet, but I can't see anything really obstructing. It's, oh, never mind. Can you guys believe it? I literally just found the problem while trying to explain to you guys what the problem was. So look, if we tighten this, we should have a nice closing door. Ta-da! Oh my gosh. All right, now we can actually start setting gaps. I literally found out that issue while I was showing you guys that issue, so thank you guys. Now let me explain how to get a perfect gap on the quarter panel. First thing we gotta do is make sure the gap here is nice to this little pillar, A-pillar. Gap here is nice to the front door. Then we work back here, and then we can go to the quarter panel since we're replacing the quarter panel. Initially, if the quarter panels are not being replaced, you start with the quarter panels because the quarter panels don't move. So you start that way and you walk forward. But now that we are welding on the new quarter panel, we gotta go from what we know to there. Even from the driver's side fender all the way around and then back to the quarter panel to make sure all the gaps line up perfect.
And I spent the next hour making sure all the gaps are absolutely immaculate because I am a gap freak and this is not a cheap car, so I want to make it perfect.
You know what I just realized? That doing this and explaining how this is done is actually so many steps and so many explanations on how this is actually done. I guess for me it's just like the nature of like, hey, let's just get this done. Oh, this goes next, this goes here. But geez, we have a lot of steps that need to be done in order to make sure that everything fits up perfect before you start welding. But dang, look at this gap right here. I mean, it's pretty darn good. It's level like this for the most part. This needs to be pushed in. But the only issue I'm fighting right now is that it's a little bit tight up here and at the bottom is better. So I'm not sure what needs to happen just yet. I do know we need a taillight and somebody locally has one, so let's go pick it up.
While I was working on my E63, a local dismantler hit me up and said that he recently got a 2020 E63 in and he has a lot of parts that I need.
I need that one. I have that, so I just need this. It's just the tab is broken on it. But I have this piece.
The robber, you got the seal?
Yeah, I got this, I got that. I got everything here.
It was on the car?
Yep, I have this.
And while he was showing me the body of the vehicle, he said basically take anything I need because everything here is getting scrapped. So I took a lot of little bolts, clips, nuts, and random rubber grommets that I needed. And when we were done looking at the body of the car, he showed me these seats that I badly want.
Now this is real tempting right here. This is literally the only mod I want in the E63 because the front seats are so basic looking.
He also had a hood insulation piece which costs around $170 at the dealer. He said as long as I take it off, I can have it for $50. Meanwhile that was happening, he pulled out the seat, tempting me to buy this seat so I can test fit and sit in it and see how it feels.
Dude, this is extremely tempting. 11,000 mile OEM AMG GT bucket seats. I don't know, what do you guys think? Should I get these? $3,000 for the set of 2. Let me know down in the comment section. I do gotta say that was a extremely successful trip. I'm super happy. I got all these little bolts and random clips and stuff like that. That basically he was just throwing away the body of the car and he said take anything you want, it's gonna be free. So dude, huge shout out to Victor. I'm super excited because we are closer than ever to getting that quarter panel welded on. First of all, getting that car ready for paint, and second of all, getting it finished so I can finally rip it and do some mad donuts. I'm super pumped. So now that we got the quarter panel basically quote unquote close to being in its spot, we got the taillight on. Now we gotta go ahead and self-tap this bad boy on with a couple of screws all around, making sure the gap is perfect everywhere, and then we can test fit the rear bumper, and then we tear everything apart, weld all that inside there, prep the quarter panel for welding, and only then we can actually weld it on.
You know that famous saying, measure 7 times and cut once? That's exactly what I was doing here. I was making sure everything lines up perfect, like double, triple, quadruple checking. I had to make that gap up top on the quarter panel a little bit thicker. That way the quarter panel can move forward to make the gap to the door a little bit tighter. Trunk gap was perfect, put the taillight on, and then we can finally measure up the rear bumper to kind of confirm that everything is in its right place and that everything fits perfect. And voila.
I don't know what it is, guys, but this right here is literally a work of art. Art at its finest. I haven't done this in so long, and it's either me just being an absolute perfectionist or something. The Gap King is officially back. Now look at this. Yo. Look at this. Okay, so there's no bracket behind here, but that's gonna go just like that. Perfect all around here. This one here, I don't want to clip that in just yet because it's going to be near impossible to take that out. So that's going to be like this. Now down here, it's all perfect. All around, it's perfect. I've adjusted this gap to be literally spot on. These cuts are just straight gnarly, like out of a movie or something. Like this is just, look at that. How much better can it get? Whew. We've test fitted everything. We've ensured everything fits. Now what we gotta do is put a couple of self-tapping screws all around the quarter panel to make sure we have this spot saved, and then take everything apart and weld in all the structural pieces inside. Let's get to it.
You see, this is the reason many people would prefer to repair a quarter panel instead of changing it, because it's literally measure 7 times and weld once. You know, because once it's welded, you can't really move it, and if you weld it into the wrong position, well, you're kind of screwed at that point. So we're making sure everything fits good, and prior to welding on the exterior quarter panel, we gotta finish up the interior work that we got all fixed up. That's what we're doing here. Some of the welds were just not sticking too good, and I don't know why, but you know, it is what it is. This piece here, I just kind of overlapped it with the old piece, and I traced exactly where the holes need to be drilled for the weld, and we got it done.
I'm gonna be extremely honest with you guys. Some of these are really ugly, and I'm not really sure why, because I've welded a ton of these before and I've used the exact same welder. The only thing I'm thinking right now is that the 110 outlet has like weak amperage or whatever it's called. I know that's happened to me before, so that's the only thing I'm feeling. But for me personally, what's more important than it looking pretty behind here is making sure that it's just dead stuck on. So all of these were tested with the pry. I tried to pry them with like a screwdriver, make sure none of them pry off, everything's welded on. So I'm gonna clean these up. Like this one here is super ugly, this one is super ugly. Some of them are good. I'm gonna clean all those up, and maybe it's the fact that I didn't prep the back side of the panel like I am doing with this one here. So I'm gonna go ahead and weld this one on and see how it acts. So wish me luck.
So with this piece here, I decided to actually prep the inside of it, hoping I'm gonna get a better weld. Prior to getting it welded though, we have to move all the stuff out of the trunk. We don't want any of this stuff catching on fire. And while I was there, I noticed some damage on the box here, so I went ahead and just tapped it out with a hammer, and everything fit perfect. I think this damage was from the fact that the old quarter panel was overlapping all of this and just caused it to damage and bend these little things, but it was not a big deal. Once that was all finished up, I went ahead and put my welding blanket inside there, making sure nothing would catch on fire. After that, we measured up the piece that needed to be welded on, self-tapped it onto its proper place, and just look how perfect it fits. Everything was prepped, everything was ready for us to start welding, and we just went straight at it. We went to welding, and things were looking pretty good. Couple of ugly welds, but for the most part, everything looked beautiful. And once everything was welded in, I went ahead and cleaned up all the welds, degreased them all, made them all look pretty, and after that, I primed everything in to make sure we get a full rust protection.
Honestly, I haven't done this in about a year or so, and I really forgot how much work this really is. So my main thing here was A, for all the welds to hold, B, to basically rust proof it as much as possible. Yes, there are some ugly welds like that one there, but I know 1,000,000% it holds. And these up here and here, I have not touched just yet because I'm gonna grind those down to put the new quarter panel on. But for the most part, it looks pretty good. I kind of just spotted it in. I did dump a bunch of primer all inside here and all up in those cracks. That way it gets everything as much as possible. And honestly, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, you can't really see this, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, look at that. Well, would you look at that? It's finally taking shape, and it's finally looking like a car and not just a rejected, repaired piece of scrap metal. But guys, I am so brutally exhausted right now. You guys don't even know. I'm gonna leave this quarter panel like this. It's ready for me to take it off, prep it, and just weld it on. Not only do I have to wait for this stuff in there to dry, I also have to edit this video for Sunday, and I just wanna say thank you so much for watching this video. And if you guys enjoyed it, please smash that like button. Like I said earlier, I honestly underestimated the amount of work this takes to get a quarter panel on, welded properly, making sure everything is dot on perfect. If you guys enjoyed this content, please smash that like button. Don't forget to comment your thoughts and ideas down below. Follow me on Instagram at BYBTim, and consider subscribing. With that all being said, the next one's the best one. Peace.